Hello, and welcome to episode 49 of No Particular Reason. I guess you're wondering why I'm by myself on this episode. Well, Kerri Lewis, my wonderful co host, feels a little bit under the sun today, so she's not going to be joining us. And we don't have a guest today for the show, so it'll just be me for the most part, and I'll talk about whatever I feel like I'm going to talk about. So here we are. Um, and then at any given point, anybody that feels like wants to ask questions or anything, please feel free to do so. It's Friday and it's kind of crummy outside. It's currently raining and we have the typical Chicago weather. It doesn't even feel like it's morning. It's still dark outside because of the clouds and everything. And that's kind of um, not as energizing, but it is what it is. And I feel a little bit under the weather myself. I had some kind of cold or something that kept me um, exhausted and kind of not wanting to do anything for the past couple of days, headaches and other things. So hopefully it's not the same kind of deal with my wonderful co-host, Kerri Lewis. And if at any given point anybody feel like it wants to hop in, I'll be more than happy to bring you in the live. So that's about it. And yeah, it's wonderful to be here today and share a cup of coffee with you guys until something inspirational hits me up and I find a topic to talk about. Um, Many things are coming to mind. Nothing that I really would love to talk about, like, you know, viruses and things like that, and politics, and how dynamic the world is around us every day. We have all kinds of news coming in and keep us minds occupied, and that's probably something I want to scratch the surface on and talk about, like been observing how my thoughts are running for the past couple of days when I was feeling under the sun a little bit, or not to say 100%. And it was kind of weird because I'll have times during the day where I'll feel like I am 90% and I'm like energized and I have all the power to do everything. And then everything will just go down. I feel like I am at, say, I don't know, 20, 30%. And something interesting happens when I observe the thoughts that were running in the head. There were a lot of thoughts going on, and a lot of them had no value, as usual. I already concluded that a lot of the thoughts that go into here are repeating thoughts that have no value, or they're just expression of things that are happening or that has happened during the day with me. And so that was kind of a interesting observation. So maybe I want to start with that and ask um, some of you guys if you haven't ever experienced this kind of um, state where you realize that a lot of your thoughts are just repeating thoughts, and um, they're not bringing any value. They're just kind of going in and taking the bulk of the time, not bringing any value or anything that you know that'll inspire you to create, or it'll mostly be like repeating patterns or something you've seen. And you might even have moments when you say, why am I even thinking that? So yeah, that's that's that. And yeah, so while I'm waiting on another inspirational thought to come in, I'll have a sip of coffee And again, if anybody feels like wants to jump in, share your thoughts. Um, Come on in and bring your thoughts, and we'll talk about it. Um, so something interesting also happened this week with me. I met somebody that um, we talked about woo stuff, like our friend Gil Kraft calls it the woo woo stuff. And because the type of work I do with people with past life regressions and going in between lives and life between life regressions and things like that, a lot of the times I'll have people that I'll experience telepathy or other states of mind where they're not only gonna they're not only see things, or well, not in a way that you'll see with your eyes, but you know what I mean. They'll see it with their inner eye, and they'll have what some people call downloads, or kind of like knowledge that they didn't have, but it felt like somebody put it in their head and they have it now. So um, we were discussing many different things that were occurring, and we kind of um, get stuck on the topic of light language, which is something that it's fascinating. At least to me, it's very fascinating topic to talk about. So I'll talk about a little bit out of that, because that was a good talk that we had. Until this point, I didn't realize that um, light language can have so many different forms. And some of you might ask, well, what light language is? And so it's inspirational thoughts or feelings or anything that you get from above that comes through you when you're in an outer state of mind. And because the outer state of mind is not something that is uh, depending on eyes, like it doesn't depend on your eyes being closed to be able to be in this outer state of mind. A lot of the times, um, when people do it, because now it's something that's getting popularity. You might, if you like Google light language, you might find some people doing videos on it, um, and and it doesn't even stop to that. But like, I'll describe a little more. But when you're on that outer state of mind, doesn't mean that your eyes have to be closed and you have to be in a trance, but you're in an outer state of being, or the person who's doing the light language in an outer state of being, where he's flipping between this and that, and it's getting the inspiration that's coming from above, or that it's coming from somewhere. I once say above, and I think a lot of people say above, and that's my own um, um, understanding of it. It's because it's not moving horizontally like we perceive time from past to future, but it's vertical. It's in a different dimension. So it's above, because it's from higher vibration coming down to lower vibration. And so when that inspiration comes in, and it's not in a way that it's something that your mind can translate or have an understanding of it, it might feel like a feeling that you have to express, and it might feel like a sound that's coming up that you're making. And so a lot of people that do light language, they're basically getting and embodying whatever they can come or take from above. Well, not take, but like um, bridge with, because it's not in a way of like taking and and giving. It's more of a um, fluid state where everything kind of blends. So when that blending happens, the mind can make things sense of things or might not make sense of things. And so the bottom line is that when you're in that state and you're doing it, um, or it's doing you because it's happening through you as a channel, then the sounds and the voices that you're making might sound like something that's not comprehensible to the mind. And a lot of the times it sounds like a shamanic language or some kind of sorcery or something that you're saying or you're doing. So if somebody listens to it and wants to make sense of what it means, it can't really make sense of what it really means because there's no meaning behind it. Because the mind cannot put a meaning behind it because it's not from this vibration, it's not from this dimension. So a lot of the times it sounds like nonsense when somebody's singing it or sounding it or um, vocalizing it or bringing it into this reality. So it's kind of interesting because then the people that have the sense of feeling, then they can feel it. Um, and or people that have the sense of vision or clairvoyance can see things when they're in the presence of this kind of like exchange or um, energy go kind of state. But the bottom line is when that happens to somebody, it could be a scary experience because you might be sitting in meditation and thinking that you're just observing your mind. And at one point, you blend in with something that you don't understand and your mind doesn't understand. And then that starts happening through you. But you think it's happening to you because you're present when you're meditating. Well, the you, it's present, but then the you, it's kind of like sitting in the back seat and observing the thoughts, the real you. And so when that happens, it could be something scary. It might feel like somebody it's possessing your body or something else. It's doing something through you, and you might freak out. So that was the conversation I had with this person. She didn't really freak out, but that inspiration was happening through her. She was channeling like a light language. And a lot of the times when that happens, it doesn't have to be vocalized. It could be like a melody that you sing, or it could be like sounds. It doesn't have to be like a certain pattern that you say. It doesn't have to be like a language. But they call it light language because it sounds like a language. When it's happening through you, it sounds like you're speaking in a tongue or in some kind of like a unknown language to you. And so that could be like scary if this is the first time that happens to you. Um, but when you have the background and understanding of that this is just the blending of the energies, that you're in an outer state and you're blending in with something that you haven't been able to before, or you're changing your state of vibration, and so you're in a way tapping into something that you haven't tapped in before. It feels scary like anything else for first time. um, you know Taking a walk for first time could be a scary. When you watch the little kids trying to walk, they kind of do the same thing, and or burping could be scary for them too when they do the first time and they go like, oh, they kind of get startled because they weren't expecting the body to do that. but it's a normal process that might happen to anybody that meditates and gets in and out their state of being. I'm going to touch up on meditation a little bit, but I have a little more to talk about on the light language. So I felt like this is kind of a good topic to talk about today. And again, if you have any questions or anything and you'd like to ask, please go ahead, drop your comments in the chat below, or ask, and I'll bring it in. So the other side of things of light language could be that you're not vocalizing it like a language. You're not speaking it. There you are. You're sitting with your, hands, legs crossed. If you're meditating sitting, but if you're laying down, it could also happen. Although I haven't had an experience when it happens to me laying down, but most of the time I meditate sitting in an upright position with the legs crossed, which I find a lot more comfortable. But if that happens to somebody else, please bring it in the comment. Let me know. I'll be like really curious to find about it. In at all, I'm always fascinated by the outer states of mind, and this is why I love doing hypnosis and helping people get in an outer state of mind, to show them the power of their mind and what they can do when they're in an outer state of mind. The possibilities that you can experience when you're in that outer state of mind, um, and perception changes too. So, to circle back in the light language, so if that happens to you, don't get startled. Like, go with curiosity, and not only with that, go with your curious self. Like, always look at things with a curious eye and see where this things or the thing will go, or what will happen, or like, because you don't know. Like, in reality, you don't know what's going to come out of anything. A lot of the times you project your past experiences and you're trying to make something out of them, to make sense of like what's happening. And so when that happens and you have the feeling like you want to chant or hum or anything, and that happens to you, and you start mumbling something that sounds like a foreign language, and you're speaking it but you don't understand it, but it feels good, then it probably is light language, because you'll get the feeling. If you're clairvoyant, you might see the thing, and when you do the blending, you're vocalizing it and you're expressing it. Um, in a way, you're becoming an instrument, like a string in a guitar. Um, when string of a guitar, it's in a close proximity to another instrument, and say the string is tuned into C and vibrates to that frequency, and the other instrument that it's in close proximity makes the C tone, um, that will propagate through space-time, and it'll make the string vibrate because now it's tuning into that frequency. And so in a way, it's kind of the same when you do the blending and you're in an outer state of being and you connect to that frequency of the C, like the string. You become like the string, you become the instrument, you start vibrating of whatever the outer vibration is. And so you start to bring that vibration into this reality, space time. Um, but it's not always 100%, because you might slightly be off tune. Depends on how your vibration goes on enough. So it won't be accurate to say that it's 100% accurate what you're doing as an instrument when you're bringing that frequency in, or whatever light language you're bringing in. Unless, like anything else, with practice you get better and you don't get startled the first time around that happens to you, and you go with curiosity and you start doing it more often, then you'll get better at it, and you'll be able to tune in faster every time you do it, and not only to that frequency, but a different type of frequencies too. And you'll be able to do that now, because everybody it's different and everyone sees perceive reality the way they do. There's different types of um, expressions of how you can express the light language. And so it's not always the way you will vocalize it or speak it. There's also instances where people draw it. And there is drawings of light language, which is also an interesting part, because now you're bringing it in, you're connecting, you're getting in that outer state of mind. Maybe you're just like in your head and you're just kind of scribbling or doing little scribbles or whatever you think you're doing. But at that time, there's no mind, there's no thinking going inside, and you're connected to something and you just kind of feel relaxed and something's going on. And you think you're just doing something that it doesn't look interesting, but after you're done and you look at it, might look like a really fine figures that look kind of really, really interesting in a way. And let me see if I can bring one out. I think I had one that I sent my friend when we talked about it, but that was a interesting topic. Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna try to do that without showing who I did this to. Bear a second with me. And again, my voice might sound a little scrubbly too, because I went through something that I recovered from. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to bring it in. I found it in one of the face groups that I'm member of, and it's kind of a really nice looking drawing of the light language. Anyways, it probably wasn't meant to be. But to go back to the topic, so it's not only it's fascinating what one could do when it's in that outer state of mind, when you're still here but you're not quite here because you're like operating in a different vibration. And I say vibration because the science already proves that there's different types of vibration when your brain operates on. They have alpha, beta, theta, and so on. And they have the machines that you can put our bands around your head to measure the frequency of your brain operation, or whatever the frequency is when the energy moves through your brain connections and makes connections with one another. And yeah, so it could be a drawing that looks really fine. It doesn't have it looks like art almost. At least to me, that's how it looks. And it gives you a different way of understanding things when you look at it. If that makes sense. So, light language, it's basically an expression that you take out of whatever you're connecting to when you're in that outer state of mind, whatever you're resonating with, in bringing it into your reality in existence and giving it an expression. If I have to make a definition, that'll be it. That'll be the definition of light language. Something that you're connecting to, blending it with your reality and giving an expression into your reality. when you're meditating. And speaking of that, I said earlier that I'm going to talk about a little bit on the meditation topic. Um, and this is what I want to talk about. I see it more and more that people think they're meditating, and there's different definitions of meditation. Um, but my definition, it's basically to have no mind involved, not only to observe the mind. That's also an outer state of being where you're not involved in the mind. You're not acting as the mind. Let's put it that way. Because a lot of the time when you're operating, you have the thoughts going in your head, and you're taking them as your own thoughts, and you act upon your thoughts. And that's when you're um, observed in the thoughts, and you think you're the thoughts. And so that's when you're operating as the mind versus operating as um, detached from that and as observer, where um, there's the thoughts and there's you. Like if this is the mind with the thoughts, in my head it's you, you're here, and the mind has the thoughts, but you observe the thoughts, and from here you decide how to act um, uh, based on what this wants to do instead of what this wants to do, what the mind wants to do. Kind of a the touch state, not as a touch as believing that you're the thoughts and the thoughts are um, doing you, but as a um, somebody that's observing what's happening with the thoughts that are thinking that they're you. That's kind of a weird way of looking at it, but it's interesting way because again, that's outer state of being. Because when in that outer state of being, you can be associated with different things, not only your mind or the person that you think you are. You can be associated or dissociated um, from different scenarios. A lot of time in outer state of being or hypnosis, um, a person that's going through a traumatic life experience or a memory that that person is recalling can experience it is a touched experience where they're in the experience with the memories and reliving it, or they can observe it as a third person, which they're kind of like a observer sitting outside watching them having that experience play out, which is stressful because when you're not in the role of like what's happening, it's not happening to you per se, but you're seeing it from a different um, point of view, a different perspective. And so it's kind of like that when you meditate. The meditation, well, again, meditation, it's not to have that, but to, in that, it's the internal conversation. Um, but to get to that point, the first step will probably be just to be able to discern between you and your thoughts, to be able to detach from the thoughts and be able to just observe them. That way, when you're observing him and you're not in the thoughts, you're able to make um, different decisions because now you're like an observer observing yourself and giving it ability to discern and act different way, because then you're acting more of a way that you see not as emotional, let's put it that way, because when you in the thought, you're acting off the emotion, and the emotion overrides the logic usually. So when that happens and I'll give you an example. A lot of times people, when they're pissed off on their end situation and their emotion, it's like really driving the situation. Like say they're in fight or somebody is like accusing him of something, the emotion overrides the logic. And that's being proven because that's one of the surviving mechanisms that human beings have. It's usually being um, inbred in us from many, many, many millennia and millennia in the DNA to help us survive in the jungle. Because like if there's a tiger in the front of you, um, the fear overrides the logic, and you turn around and run. You don't think, you see the tiger, turn around and run. And and so it's kind of like that. The emotion overrides the logic, and so when you're emotional, you don't make the proper decisions, and a lot of people regret it after they're in that kind of situation, because in that given moment they're driven purely by emotion, and they're not um, thinking straight, because the emotion, it's the driving force in that scenario. And so usually when that happens, there's a lot of regret after that, and they say, I don't know what came after me and why I acted the way I acted. I could have acted differently in that situation, but it's because now that it's done, they go back and look at it with the logic, and they don't understand that emotion overrode the logic, and this is what happened. So in a lot of ways, when you meditate, and that's the other thing. A lot of people think meditation, it's uh, an instrument to make them improve themselves. The improvement comes as a side effect of the meditation, not as something that you do to improve yourself, because you're not improving yourself by meditating. You're That's an instrument. It's a tool or technique to give you a way to better understand yourself and be able to look at the patterns and the thoughts that you're having, not being able to be associated with them, but be able to watch them as an observer, and then uh, decide how to act on them instead of acting in as an emotional force. Because those thoughts, they'll create an emotion, and then the emotion will override logic, and then you act it up. And so a lot of people that meditate, they see the improvement at the beginning without knowing when they're improving. Or a lot of people that are kind of calm and having all this going on for them, and a lot of people or friends or somebody else sees them and asks them like, hey, what do you do? You're like so different now. You used to be all uptight, and now you're all relaxed and everything, it's cool and dandy with you. And like, well, what's going on? And usually when you tell them, well, I meditate, then they think, wow, this is great. Like, this person meditates, they're I want to be like them. I want to be like all relaxed and everything. And so they start to meditate for the wrong reasons, thinking that they're going to improve themselves, but there isn't really a improvement when you meditate. It's just an instrument that gives you ability to be able to um, get to understand yourself better, and get yourself acting in different situations based on memories in things, and give you opportunity to see it and transform it. Because usually when you in the situation that's created based on that, then you're acting out of the emotion. You're not acting out of whatever else was going on with you at that very moment. So that's how I understand it. In when I do meditation, um, I just do it like I love how you probably, like, some of you might know Alan Watts. He's a philosopher, American philosopher. He had a really good talk that I listened to. And he talked about that point of dancing. there isn't really a point of dancing. And so it's kind of the same with meditation. There isn't really a point in meditating. You just do it to have a experience or different experience that gives you abilities to experience yourself differently. Because when you're dancing, you're not doing it to get from, and this is what he was saying, you're not doing it to get it from the one side of, the dance floor to the other side, in a certain way or faster than somebody else, um, to win a race. You're not doing it um, to show like that you can dance faster than somebody else. You're dancing for the sake of dancing. There's nothing, there's no there's no benefit out of dancing. um, yes, health benefit because you'll be exercising the body and all that, but um, a lot of the people that are doing the dancing or music, the same thing. You're not, when you're playing music, you're not playing it um, unless you're making a living out of that. You're getting paid to do it, but usually you do it for the pure enjoyment of just making the music, not to see that you can make the fastest piece, because then you'll just have a beginning and an end tone, and then that'll be the song. Um, but you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, to have that experience. So meditation, in a way, it's kind of the same way. Um, you're just doing the meditation, and you're not even like doing it. You're kind of like allowing it to happen. It's hard to explain, um, but yeah, it's pretty much it. And then the meditation puts you in that outer state of mind, because then when you stop the body, like say you're sitting up straight, or you're laying down, and you close your eyes, then the mind has no options to go outside and observe the room. Then he has to come back in, and then that brings you in to be more observant of like what's going on inside instead of like what's going on outside. It's kind of like bringing your attention inside yourself instead of, keep sending your attention outside of you, to like seeing what's going on at every minute, like what's happening there, what's happening there. um, every little move grabs your attention, so that kind of in a way brings you in and allows you to experience yourself from a different perspective, if that makes sense. um, but yeah, and when you're in that state, then other wonderful things are happening, like I mentioned earlier with the light language. Light language can happen to you. um, so you might be able to vocalize it, um, sing it, dance it, or draw it. Um, now that I'm thinking, it might even come up as a gibberish if you're like writing it. If you're scribbling, ideas might come in. Um, in in that moment, some people use the term of channeling. You're becoming a channel of whatever that frequency is. You kind of created a bridge from here to there, a bridge that became a channel to blend in, um, both. Um, but like to think that it's also um, going both ways, not only as a download, but I think it goes both ways simultaneously. I think in a way, both, because they're blending, you're not only um, channeling or um, getting that grounded in here, you're also bringing here over there. you're bringing that experience on the other end, which I don't know what that will be from somebody perspective on the other end of being the other end of the bridge, or what their experience will be. If I imagine, will probably be a lot more physical because we're more dense and physical here than what's on the other densities. Um, but that's pretty much it. And I had this conversation with my friend, and we talked about it. Um, and I don't even know how that conversation started. Usually, I do weird conversations with friends and people that we talk about because, again, I'm really fascinated in outer state of being, the outer states of mind, or the trance state where um, your perception changes and your mind does wonderful things for you. Things change. Let's put it this way. You'll have abilities to experience things that you haven't experienced before. Um, and and I see that a lot. Two sessions when I do with clients. Um, some people that call it still woo woo, you know, that haven't happened to them yet. But it's a natural state, and anybody can have this kind of experiences if um, if they like to go within and get in that outer state of being. Once they get in that outer state of being, then they can have different experiences. In a light language is only one of them. You can have out of body experience when you lose the perception of this body that you're occupying, that you have the ability to occupy right now, um, and be able to step outside yourself and observe the body or yourself through and have out of body experience. That's one of the things that your mind is capable of. Not your mind, but your consciousness. Um, and so there's different types of outer states of being. You can be out of body, you can float, you can, travel space time, you can go back to previous lives, you can connect to things, you can experience things from different perspectives, you can change your perception of becoming the vase in the room or the table or something else, which is kind of an interesting experience as well. Um, different experiences like that. Basically, your um, perception is not limited to the physical body only. Um, and another example is that you usually have the 180 view with the eyes, but when your perception steps out of the body, then you have 360 because now you're not limited to the faculties of the body like the eyes. You can perceive everything in 360 because you're not limited to the physical body with the eyes and what they're limiting you to. Same applies for the hearing. You can be able to hear different things and experience things differently. You might be able to taste sound, which is weird um, to be able to do. But this is the fascinating point. Like I'm really fascinated by this kind of things, and the more I do it um, myself in working with other people, um, the more fascinated I get. It's just um, it gives me the ability to maybe understand or give an understanding of like what's going on when you're in that other state of mind. And that's also one of the reasons why I practice hypnotism. That was that was actually the point that brought me in to start practicing hypnotism, because I wanted to know, like, how does one get in this outer state of mind? What's the recipe for it? Like, do you just, hold your hands? Do you hum? Do you do different things? And the reality is, everyone gets it. Everyone goes in it different times a day, many different. Some people do it very often. Some people not as much. But um, you can get on those states of mind with different techniques or different ways. Um, some people might get in outer state of mind by um, being in a drum circle, which some of the ancient people used, or drumming around, smoke, humming, doing different things. That also show in an outer state of mind or outer state of being. Singing balls, music, it's great. Especially for me, um, music helps me get in out the state of mind. I'm not using it as much, but at the beginning, I was using binaural beats, other things, and I come to realize that they're becoming more of a something that I depend on, like a cane. If you depend on a cane to walk a lot, I mean, it'll be good if you're recovering from injury, but ultimately the best thing to be is to be able to walk without the helper or the cane. So I come to realize that I was becoming more dependent on binaural beats, other things to get in that state, and so I started to practice without them. That's a side note. Maybe that'll be helpful to somebody if he wants to like get in that. Um, but yeah, hypnosis or hypnotism, it's one other way to help people get in out the state of mind and be able to explore different facets of their being or consciousness. So, um, hopefully, this was informal to you guys. Nothing else comes to mind that I can think of. Excuse me. I'm still coughing from that um, thing that got me. I don't know what it is. Um, but yeah, hopefully this was informal to you. I'm looking at the time. I almost did an hour of talking about other states of mind and being. I know in this show we talk about different topics when we have our guests in, and this is what I love about this show too, is that we bring guests and people that use different techniques and instruments and different things to help themselves and ultimately help other people like themselves to transform their reality and be able to experience life differently. Not in the way that they were experiencing it till this moment. And so I spent a lot of time today talking about this, but this is because I'm really passionate about hypnotism and outer states of being. And I figured that light language could be a good topic to talk about. Um, and don't take my word for it. Go on the internet and Google that stuff. Like if you Google light language images, well, I haven't thought about that, but like, let me see if I can do that. Light images. Uh, Maybe I can bring this on. Yeah, cool. Let me see if I can share my screen. But anybody can do the research. You guys can, go on the internet. YouTube has a lot of videos with light language people that speak it. It sounds like a shamanic sound and voice, and there is like this, like this is kind of like a drawing with like a light language. Um, this could be like like light language. There's a lot of different, like this. This is more like the stuff that I see. This is more like, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, you guys can go on, look it up on the internet, not only for drawing, but if you're curious to find out how it sounds like, or if it's happening to you. And if you have any questions, my contact is in the description below. You can send me an email, contact me, or give me a call. I have my contact information on my website, on Facebook. Um, there you can contact me over Messenger. I'll love to chat with you about that, or help you if you have any questions or anything about this topic. And with that, I'm gonna end today's streams. Thank you so much for sticking around with me. I hope you had a uh, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next stream. Thank you. Bye.